This is Corey Willis with PPEI, and you're listening to the Diesel Podcast.
I'm Adam Blattenberg from Diesel World.
This is Dan, owner of Dan's Diesel Performance.
I'm Braden Fleece, and you're listening to the Diesel Podcast.
What is going on, Diesel Nation? We're excited to have you guys with us today on the Diesel Podcast. We've got a really cool episode today. We've been getting a lot of requests for an episode about CP4s and failures on them. And we wanted to chat with an expert and be able to learn more about the issue, but then also how to address it and fix it before it turns into needing to buy an injector set and a new injection pump and clean out the entire fuel system. So today we've got Kyle from Hot Shot Secret on the podcast, and we're going to ask him to detail what is the issue and how did they address fixing it, and what are what's some data, some science, some feedback that they're seeing with one, failure rates, and then two is fuel quality, and it can vary from station to station, within a city, a state, a region. It can all be different, but how did they address it? And so I know this is going to apply to a lot of listeners that we have out there with trucks that have a CP4, but the lessons of it also extend past that into trucks that have CP3s in ways that you can protect your fuel system, which is, it's the heart of your truck, of the engine, of the performance, of the reliability side of it. So we're really looking forward to be able to chat with him today. Before we get to the podcast, though, we've got a ton of episodes lined up for you guys with companies that specialize in anything to do with diesel, whether it's turbos, injection systems, injectors, transmissions, pretty much anything. So we want to encourage you guys to keep sending us messages, emails, direct messages, letting us know, hey, I'd love to hear, someone come on the podcast, talk about this topic, or I have this specific question. And a lot of times what we'll do is we'll take those questions we get from you guys and ask them right on air. So it's been really cool. A few times I've seen a question come in like 5 minutes before we have a guest on, and I'll ask him on air. So we want to encourage you guys to keep doing that, keep letting us know what you want to hear, and different things that are out there that you guys are thinking of doing to your trucks, or ways that you want to make them more reliable, and we'll make sure we have the experts answer them. All right, let's get to the podcast with Kyle and learning more about CP4 failures and a fix they got for it. Kyle, it's great to have you on the Diesel Podcast today. I've been looking forward to chatting with you for a bit, and there's a lot of questions and things that we get on social media where people want to know more about Hot Shot Secret, what you guys offer, how it applies to not just their race vehicles, but also their daily drivers. So we're glad to be able to chat with you today.
I appreciate it, Patrick. Really looking forward to being on, and I think, as they say, I'm a long-time listener, but first-time caller, so appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, one of the things that it's always stood out to me is when I think of Hot Shot Secrets, I see you guys all over at racetracks, whether it's UCC or ODSS or King of the Street Challenge, just tons of different places. There's lots of competitors out there in diesel motorsports that run your products, and I wanted to kind of go back to the beginning in a sense and ask you, how did you guys get involved in the diesel racing side of the industry?
Well, it's a funny story, actually. We never really intended it out of the gate, and it's only been a few years. So we've come a long way in just a few years, and it started, as a lot of people know, one of our taglines is powered by science, so we're always trying to put our data out there in front of us. And we were formulating our FR3 friction reducer product, which is an oil additive, and we are fortunate to have Fire Punk Diesel local to us here in Ohio, and we were recommended, well, why don't you go test with them, because we were looking to get some dyno results on it. And at the time, we honestly didn't know Fire Punk from anybody, and they didn't really know us. And we bought some dyno time and headed down that way, which we laugh about nowadays because it's kind of, we're all good friends, and we fully sponsor the Fire Punk diesel racing team. But at the time it was, oh no, here comes another one of those additive companies that want to rent out some dyno time. But hey, their money's green. If they want to buy some time, we'll have them on. And by the end of that day, we had half the shop around the dyno screen pulling their trucks off the trailers, all wanting to try the FR3 friction reducer that we had on there after we were pulling horsepower on pretty much every vehicle that we put up there. So it really started off as a R&D type of thing, and as we were trying to show the reduction in wear that we can produce in the motor, availability to produce more horsepower, it turned into a relationship that is now a long-term relationship, and they said, you guys, I got something here that the high-performance racing industry could really use, and the rest is history after that.
I think that's when I first saw you guys was with Firepunk, and they were running your guys' products. I don't remember if it was at DPC or UCC first, but I remember that was my first introduction, and it in a way kind of speaks to the larger, I'd say, progression we've seen in diesel motorsports. Is these teams are making incredible power numbers, incredible torque numbers. They're doing things they've never done, and they're leaning on the aftermarket saying, hey, we need something for, whether it's oil or fuel systems or even to do with their transmissions or differentials, whatever it might be. And they're saying, hey, we need better products. And then companies like yours come in, they're able to help them out. And that translates to the everyday drivers as well, which is what I think is really cool, is the things you guys are able to learn at the track is also translating to the guy that, may put 50, 100,000 miles a year on his truck, and he's a hot shotter or a construction truck, or just something that you're driving every day, hauling your toys with.
Well, that's what's been so great about the motorsports for us. It's not necessarily that we've been able to set new world records with a bunch of teams, and all that's great and all. But the core of our company, we really started as a problem-solving company, and we remain that today. As you probably know, our core product is our extinction eliminator oil additive, and that was the birth of the company with Hot Shot Secret when, Ford brought out the Hubie injectors, the 6.0s, the 7.3s, and had all the issues with the oil side on those injectors, gumming up, and we were able to develop a product to solve that problem. That brought us to market. Ever since then, we constantly are looking for problems to solve. And so what this introduction into the high-performance motorsports world has done has allowed us to find new problems and solve those. And we're always looking for new stuff that is addressing every application. Being able to test at that high of a level just allows us to put even more thorough science and R&D into solving these issues. And I remember it was the last couple years of motorsports here where we had a lot of these drivers coming to our vendor booth, whether it was at UCC or Outlaw Diesel Super Series, and they said, they're having a lot of problems with these CP4 pumps, and we could hear them going down the track popping, and we knew there was a problem. And although we don't like for people to have problems, here at Hot Shot Secret, we get excited when we have a problem to solve. So it became a task for us, and we've recently brought out a new product specifically to attack that CP4 problem. And it just goes to show how an issue, even though it comes through the motorsports world, allows us to formulate and test and come up with a solution that we then put that product out available to the public. Because, how many trucks out there have CP4 pumps? And now that we have a solution with our Lubricity Extreme, our LX4 product, it really was brought to us, formulated, tested through the motorsports market.
To kind of focus in on that a little bit, we have a lot of listeners where they just get their first diesel truck, and it might be an LML or 6.7 Power Stroke. And we kind of hear about issues with the injection pump, but what is the problem that's there? And then what are the products that you guys have do to help increase the reliability or the performance of that pump?
Gotcha. Well, I'll tell you, there really isn't directly a problem with the CP4 pump. It's really the fuel that we're putting in these trucks that it's just not compatible with how they built it. Now, we know this because in studying the problem, the CP4 has a failure rate of less than 1% in Europe. These are the same trucks, same pumps, same everything. Here in the United States, we see anywhere from a 7 to 9% failure rate on the CP4 pump. Same trucks, same pump, same everything. And as you know, when they go, that metal goes all downstream, all the way, to the injectors, and it wipes out everything. It's not a fun process to have, and it's not cheap. Now, the only difference between the two, U.S. and Euro markets, is the fuel. And here in the United States, we just have a lot less regulation on it, on the lubricity standards in the fuel. And if you ever took apart a CP4 pump, you'd see that the change between the CP3 and the CP4 was kind of done as a cost-saving measure, and it just is not as efficient or built properly for the ultra-low sulfur diesel fuel we have here in the United States. The regulation we have, I don't want to get too technical on you. They have an HFRR test. It's a way to test lubricity in fuels. And in short, in layman's terms, it's a metal pin. They lubricate a metal surface, and a metal pin scars away at the metal. The better the lubricity, the smaller the wear scar on it. So you'll hear a lot about wear scars, and that's really just a measurement of lubricity. Well, in Europe, they have a regulation of a 460 micron wear scar or smaller, meaning you're only going to be able to gouge out 460 microns on this test. Here in the United States, the regulation is 520. Well, that difference right there it's a 12% difference in lubricity, and that's where we're seeing the difference between a 1% failure rate and a 7, 8, 9% failure rate here. So the solution really is to get the lubricity of the fuel up to the standards that they see in Europe, and then that puts you in the range of the less than 1% failure rate, which is really considered almost in the level of manufacturer defects. You're almost just completely eliminating the lubricity problem altogether.
It's really interesting because you'll see those posts on social media where people have an issue with their injection pump, and like you mentioned with the carnage that can happen is it can lead to having to buy a whole new injector set, and you're paying labor for it and the parts and everything like that. It gets very expensive really quick, and to be able to just address it with a fuel additive, in my mind, that's totally worth, the price of it, and just avoiding that kind of failure. I wanted to ask you about the fuel additive. So how is it sold or packaged? How often do you have to use it? What do you guys recommend for truck owners out there?
Well, we actually, our latest product is our LX4 Lubricity Extreme. It's a unique product to us in that normally when we're creating a fuel additive, we want to put everything in it. An all-in-one product, if you will. Our Diesel Extreme has been one of our longest held products. It's that's come up through the high performance side as well. It's official fuel additive of UCC, of Outlaw Diesel Super Series, etc. And the follow-up to our Diesel Extreme is our Everyday Diesel treatment. Now, those two products, they have everything you need to treat both the fuel system as well as the fuel going in. So there is a lubricity additive in there. We also have a cetane booster, a water dispersant, a rust and corrosion inhibitor, a fuel stabilizer, you name it, everything that we can do to treat the fuel system as well as the fuel going in. Well, this is the first time where we released a product that has one specific purpose. The LX4 Lubricity Extreme is a pure lubricity product targeted to solve this problem that everyone's dealing with the CP4s. It's a new lubricity chemical. We got some really great R&D guys here that are constantly staying ahead of the game on all the new stuff that's out there. We're always testing in the lab, and we found a new lubricity formula that is just far and away the best thing we've ever seen. So we just finished the testing on it last year, and to give you an example, I actually tried to come prepared. I pulled out some of our third-party testing here. We got so to give you an example of it, when we did some testing on some unanodized fuel, straight diesel fuel, had a wear scar diameter of 590 microns. Now, I told you, in the U.S., we have a regulation of 520. So this is even out of spec for U.S. fuel. But really, the safe zone is to get it under 460. Now, when we did our test, we actually have our LX4 treatment dose that our final formula we went with, dropped a 590 wear scar fuel down to 260 wear scar.
Wow, that's a big jump.
Yeah, well within the safe zone, if you will, far past, the European fuel standard. So the good thing is we know that we can, regardless of the fuel that you're getting at your pump, and of course they're all different. Now you may be fortunate enough that you've got some good fuel. I mean, we've tested fuel from the pump that is within that Euro spec, and if you're in an area or you have a location that has a good fuel, well, good for you. If not, that's when we start to put these fuel systems at risk, and that's why the LX4 is going to always get you within that spec. We've never seen anything over like a 700 or 800, aside from some of this racing fuel that we're seeing that's really high that we're working on treating now. But the LX4, our dosage on that is 1 ounce per 10 gallons. So one of our 32-ounce bottles, will treat 320 gallons of fuel, and each time that's going to get you into spec. And one of the unique things that we've done is since we've released the LX4 product, we went back and reinvented our everyday diesel treatment, which is one of our highest selling fuel additives that we have. It's really made to be used in every single tank to keep the injectors clean while keeping the cetane up and all the great benefits you get out of that. Well, we replaced the Lubricity additive in the everyday diesel treatment with our new LX4. So it's just something we do here. We're constantly making sure that we have the best products out there, and if we find new technology, we're not scared to go back into our products and reinvent them. So all of our customers that have been using EDT for years, it's the same product, but better now. Now it has the LX4 in it, so if you're one of those guys with a everyday driver that's got a CP4 pump in it, you could use either our LX4, which will directly address the lubricity issue, or you could use our all-in-one product, our everyday diesel treatment, and it's still going to have the LX4 in there to get your lubricity levels up to a safe area.
That's one of the things, when you talked about fuel quality, that makes so much sense, because sometimes we'll get one listener in and they'll say, hey, my buddy got like 200,000 miles, on his LML, no issues. I've got 40,000 or 80,000 on mine, and the injection pump went out. Why? And I think that variance that's at the pump can lead to these different experiences that people may have, whereas with, say, the LX4, is I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to worry about necessarily where I fuel up or what the lubricity content is at this one station I stop at, when I can just, put in 1 ounce for every 10 gallons and just not worry about it, or go with the everyday additive, as well, for the other benefits that it offers, which last time that we had you guys on, we were able to go into that and why, the fuel system is the heart of really these trucks and how important it is to protect them.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, especially when we're addressing this CP4 issue, yeah, lubricity is a major problem with it. But there's so many more problems in the fuel systems that we have to worry about as well. And sometimes, with increasing the lubricity, you are taking that risk off the table, as we've seen, like as the comparison to the Europe trucks. But as you mentioned, you can cross the street and get fuel from across the street, and you can be 200 wear scar different on the fuel over there. You can go back there next week and be another 100 wear scar different. So we're testing fuel all the time, locally, regionally, unadditized fuel from the shore tank all the way to purely additized fuel that we get out of the pump. And one of the unique things is, as many hands as the fuel goes through, you got a lot of fuel jobbers that are adding to it. They're putting their own additives in, and I think one of the most common things we've seen, a recent phenomenon, is IDIDs, which is our internal diesel injector deposits. And that's really become a result of a lot of different additives and chemicals as it passed through the hands before it makes it directly to the pump, start to formulate almost like some crystalline junk at the end of your injectors. And, it's always good to, while you're tackling one problem, you never know what the next problem is when it comes to fuel, just because there is not a real stable supply, unless you're really lucky. I know California has some good fuel standards, and I know they're getting some consistent 50 cetane above fuel. But I recommend everybody, we do fuel testing here. We do fuel and oil testing. We don't mark it up at all. We do it at cost because we think it's just something everybody should be able to have access to. The fuel testing is a little bit more pricey than the oil testing is, but if you ever wondered, we'd be happy to do some sampling on, the local stations around you, because I've always found if you can find a good fuel source, good consistent fuel source, that's the first place to protect your system. And then, of course, after that, you start with some good fuel, you use a quality additive to protect the system and address the problems that we know it's causing, since we do deal with ultra-low sulfur diesel. These fuel systems are expensive, and the insurance to protect them ahead of time goes a long way.
I think what's really cool, too, is you guys going back and adding the LX4 to the other treatments that you have, because there's a lot of, say, fleets or construction companies where there's different year range trucks, or there's a lot of diesel owners that might have a 2003 5.9 and they just bought a 2020 6.7, and to be able to use one product to cover different year ranges and get the benefits out of it, I think is really, really important, and it makes it simple. It makes it easy for the truck owner out there to be able to protect their fuel system and keep the costs down. I did want, you guys you do a tremendous job on social media, and I love seeing the talks that you guys do. I always see those on Facebook. But if listeners that we have are like, hey, I got some questions, or I'm ready to order some of this, I want to try it, what's the best way to get in contact with you guys?
Oh, well, like you said, we do have fun on our Thursday Facebook Live, so it is a way for us to open our doors, and we don't take that too seriously. It's a way for us to allow people to ask questions. So every Thursday at 1:30 Eastern Time, we're live on our Facebook page. Really there to just educate, to talk about new products, to talk about what's going on in our R&D department, and really to answer questions. So you can always hop on there, ask questions. You can go to our website. We got a lot of info there, hotshotsecret.com. We're active on social media, so you can message us through those. Or we're real proud that we always are available here. We've got some great account executives that sometimes it takes a little more thorough discussion. So I'll give you our number. It's 1-800-341-6516. That's 1-800-341-6516. We're happy to talk to you. If you have a problem, if you have an issue, you have a concern, whether it has something to do with our products or not, we're really oil and fuel nerds here. So we got open lines that you can get a hold of one of our account executives. We'll get you to our tribologists in our R&D department, and happy to see what we can do to make sure that we keep these diesels on the road as long as possible.
Well, I'm definitely going to bug you guys here in a day or two, because I need some fuel additive as well, and I definitely don't want to add my name to the CP4 carnage list, because it's something that's always been on my mind. I've always been kind of like, man, what do I do? How can I protect it? So this episode was really cool for me to be able to understand more and be able to eliminate that variance at the fuel pump with the quality, because I don't know the quality, where I might get it, throughout the city or on a road trip or something like that. So this was really a cool episode to chat. And I know it's going to resonate with a lot of the listeners out there that have an LML 6.7 Power Stroke. Maybe they just got the truck. Maybe they've had it for years, and they want to make sure that it stays, reliable, and they don't have to necessarily buy injectors or an injection pump unless they want to upgrade, which is something that we'd rather do it then than because the truck's stranded or won't start. So I appreciate it.
And one quick thing, Pat, you got to remember too, GM's getting a lawsuit right now based on this, but they're not the only ones. We see these the same pumps in the Dodges, the current Dodges, the 3-point liters, the Jeeps, Chevys, Fords, GMs. They all got it. So they're all going to deal with it sooner or later. So we're glad we can go ahead and address the problem now. So anybody with those issues, we're happy to answer questions and help them out.
Don't forget, Diesel fans, if there's any questions that you guys have about Hot Shot Secret, any of the products they have, ways that what they offer can help your truck, take Kyle up on his offer and make sure and reach out to him, give him a call, send him an email. Definitely follow them on social media. They have a lot of great content and information and lots of data. And so if we love to see data, we love to see testing and science and all the kind of things that go into products. And they do a great job of that. So we encourage you guys to follow them and make sure and check them out. Till next time, keep the shiny side up.